Cool beans. Cool beans. Well, hi everybody. Welcome back to week 2 of Summer Communication with Michael Winstead. Com 101, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, week 1 over in the books. If you forgot to turn in your 5-finger introduction or forgot to do the attendance quiz, please still go ahead and do so. I'll get those graded because anything is better than a 0. For those of you that did turn in your 5-finger introductions, fantastic. I feel like I got to know a lot about you. Hopefully, through the assignments throughout the rest of the semester, I'll get to know more about all of you. But I'm going to jump right into the chapters. I'm going to try to keep chapters 1 and chapter 2 in about 20 minutes, so that way I don't bore you guys, anything like that. All the stuff's already downloaded, so we're just going to fly right through them. Now, a little bit of foreshadowing, I guess. I forgot my clicker thing to cycle through the slides. I'm a little upset. I feel empty without it, honestly. I usually walk around and point lasers at things and all that fun stuff, but I forgot. So I'm gonna have to come back here and be a peasant and hit the space bar or enter button or whatever to change slides like it's 1996. But anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and move right into the chapter. So, chapter 1, as many of you know from the attendance quiz, is titled Start Right Here. Super convenient, right? Well, we got to start somewhere, so why not start with chapter 1? So, chapter 1, like I said, conveniently titled Start Right Here. First and foremost, what is communication presence? This is something that is incredibly important to understand, and it's something that I think you guys are maybe unaware that you do all the time, right? It's one of those things that really gets people thinking about who they want to be. So, by the book definition, communication presence is the composite of characteristics we present in both the physical and online world. Well, what does that mean? You guys will notice throughout the semester that on my PowerPoints, I like to talk to myself. Sometimes, well, especially with it being an online class and not having an audience, I will tend to ramble. But I like to talk to myself throughout all of this stuff just because I think it gets my audience engaged. And hopefully when you're watching this, you're going to be like, oh, I think I kind of know what that means. But just in case you're unaware, essentially that means how we think we want the world to see us. So, the perfect example that I can think of with this is if any of you are country music fans, there's a country artist named Brad Paisley. He has a song, I don't know, came out 2003, 2004. You guys probably weren't even born yet. But anyway, that song is called Online. That song, he makes up this online persona, and it's how he wants to be portrayed by the world. Making that a more relevant example to something that maybe you guys are a little bit more familiar with is like an avatar in an online game or your online personality or something like that. Think of this as like maybe social media. How do you want the world to see you? Well, if you only post happy, lovey, sappy things on Instagram, what's the world going to think of you? Probably you're kind of weird because all you do is love and all that stuff. But also, you think the world's going to see you as somebody that puts out love, puts out whatever. Right? Now, on the flip side of that, if you post only negative things on your social media, how do you think the world's going to perceive you? Well, probably pretty negative as a human being, right? So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm probably going to ask questions forgetting that you guys are an online class, expecting the audience to participate. But like I said, I will try my best to go on from there. So that is communication presence, something you guys have probably all heard of and thought about without actually thinking about. Now, moving on, communication choices. This is going to be one of those times that I expect the audience to participate, but it's going to be tough through a computer screen. So, first and foremost, what are your guys' go-to forms of communication? I'm gonna put this into perspective a little bit. When I was growing up, we had nothing, right? I mean, cell phones, I guess, were a thing, but not really. You had to pay for minutes and all that fun stuff. But then once I finally got to like middle school, we started to use what's called AOL Instant Messenger. I know AOL, I'm pretty sure it's bankrupt. Not even a thing anymore. But AOL Instant Messenger, so what we would do is we would spend 7-8 hours of the school day with our friends, and then I'd go home, tie up the phone lines, because we only had dial-up internet, go home, tie up the phone lines, talking to my friends, messaging. Pretty much texting before texting was a real big thing. And then that moved into texting, calling. But you guys have probably heard, maybe your parents or your older siblings, if you have any older siblings, older cousins, whatever, that, hey, don't text or call me until after 9 because it's double the minutes. Well, that was a real thing, right? Believe it or not, we used to have to wait till after 9. Nights and weekends, or weekends were free though. So at Friday after like 8 or 9, boom, you had all weekend to talk to your friends, call them, didn't matter, right? But let's say you had a 100-minute a month phone plan. That's less than 2 hours, right? But you were texting your friends, boom, right there. You send a text, you get a text back, that's 4 minutes gone. Each time you did that, it was 2 minutes taken off your bill or taken off your time, right? Now you have unlimited everything, so it doesn't really matter. But back then, you send a text, even if you say like, hi, hey, what's up? Boom, okay, that was 2 minutes of your 100-minute phone plan. If you went over that, oh my goodness, you were getting yelled at by your parents, guardian, whoever. And then that eventually that eventually brought us to unlimited texting, calling, social media, the kind of more stuff that we know today, right? But this is just kind of what I wanted to show you, that even though you probably look at it and see, yes, we all text, we all call, we all send memes to each other, right? Usually you're gonna have a preference on those, and that is how you are typically going to reach out to your friends, family, and all of that stuff. So that's kind of what it means by communication choices. Here's another question that I want you guys to think about is, are we addicted? Before you look at your screen time on your phone, what do you think your average screen time is? Mine, I can tell you, since I re-downloaded TikTok, and that's pretty much all I do with my life, is doubled from the amount of time that I made this. But according to the textbook, the average is just over 5 hours of time on your phone. That's not time like opening it, checking the time or anything like that. That is like you spend 5 hours on Instagram, 5 hours, not just on Instagram, but on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, yada, yada, yada. 5 hours, I think that's probably pretty accurate still. But like I said, since I re-downloaded TikTok, it's about 9 or 10, okay. When I made this, it was 6. So just put that into perspective, we can go from there. But anyway, based on what you think your time is for your screen time and all of that stuff, compare that to that 5 hours and go back to this question of, do you think we are addicted to specifically online communication? When was the last time you guys went out to eat with a family member or a friend and didn't pick up your phone, didn't look at your phone, right? It's one of those things we do now, we just fill those awkward pauses, right, with looking at our phone. If you look, I don't know if you can see it from back there, probably not, but my phone is right here on the desk, right? It's one of those things that's always within arm's reach. So when was the last time I hung out with my friends without looking at my phone? I couldn't tell you. It's been a while. It's just one of those things that all comes back to the question, do you think we are addicted? Another question that I want to raise to you guys that I think is an interesting thing is, do you think the days of face-to-face communication are dead or dying? Or do you think they may be coming back? They may be coming back, right? Obviously, about 4 or 5 years ago, the world went through a pandemic, so things had to change. So face-to-face communication 5 years ago was not really a thing, right? Everything was Skype, whatever video chat you were choosing to use, right? But it's just one of those things, do you think the world of face-to-face communication are dead, are dying, or will there always be some sort of face-to-face communication and so it won't ever die out entirely? Hopefully that's a good question to leave you guys on. The different types of communication. This is something that I think is probably the most important part of chapter 1. The types of communication and what is communication. Well, first and foremost, we have to define what communication is. Communication is the deliberate or accidental transfer of meaning. And we're going to learn about in a couple of chapters, like nonverbal cues and verbal cues and things like that, right? So if somebody walks in and people are laying their heads down on the desk, yet they're laying on the floor, somebody comes in and just flips you the old double bird, what does that tell you without actually telling you anything, right? It tells you a lot. If somebody comes in and you get the old not thumbs up, but you know, usually that tells you to not mess with them, okay? That is a deliberate transfer of meaning. Or if somebody comes in and they're like, hey, how are you? Today sucks. Again, that's a deliberate transfer of meaning. But like I said, if you walk in and somebody's just got their head down, or if somebody is just, you can just tell they're having a bad day. That is one of those accidental transfer of meaning. So this is more of the RBF sometimes. Most of the time, if you meet somebody with RBF, they're usually not that big of a B, but sometimes they are. Sometimes that's just their face though, right? So that's kind of what it is. So if somebody comes in, flips you the old double bird when you walk in, you're like, ooh, okay, that's not a good idea to talk to them. That's a deliberate transfer of meaning. Or if somebody comes in and they're just looking, right, just out of their mind, that's an accidental transfer of meaning. Maybe they're lost, maybe they're confused, maybe they just don't have anything going on in their mind at all. That is kind of what that means. Now, what are the types of communication? There are 7 of them, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't remember if when I made this PowerPoint, if I went type definition, or if I went type, definition. So we're gonna figure it out together. So, we have intrapersonal communication. Oh, sweet. Then you have interpersonal communication. And then you have group communication, organizational communication, public, mass, and digital and social. Intrapersonal communication is, think those voices in your head, right? Intrapersonal communication is self-communication. Like I said, those voices in your head. Interpersonal communication, if you are a comm major, you are going to see this word throughout the rest of your college career. If you're not a comm major, you probably won't see it too much. But in the event if you are a comm major, no dyadic communication and interpersonal communication are the same thing. But that is just communicating with somebody one-on-one or in a one-on-two group situation. Well, we'll fast forward that. Now that brings us to group, right? Think group work in a classroom, right? Usually when you're doing group work in a classroom, 4, 5, 6 of you. Okay, you're trying to achieve a common goal. What is that common goal if you're doing group work in a classroom? Well, usually the assignment, right? What about organizational? Organizational is classroom. This is, you walk in, first day of class, it's an organized gathering, right? Public, mass, and digital and social are all similar, but they are a little bit different. So public communication is, think like outdoor seminar, right? If you go to an event, a speaker, what is that person trying to do? That person is trying to get you to see things their way of seeing things or something like that, right? Mass communication. Mass communication is media. That's how you get your news, right? If you're local to Terre Haute, it's WTWO, WTHI. If you're in Indianapolis, it's WISH, it's WTHR, Fox, My News, Indy 4, whatever that other one is. But think mass communication, or mass media. How you get your information is that. If you're local to Terre Haute, it's the Tribune Star. That is physical media. Digital and social, similar to mass, but different. Digital and social is exclusively internet-based. BuzzFeed, articles, things like that, right? Yes, I know WTWO, WTHI, all those news outlets have apps, they have Facebook, they have whatever, but it's a little bit different. Digital and social media is strictly internet-based media, right? Hopefully that makes sense to you. If not, please feel free to refer to the book chapter PowerPoint to the bottom of Canvas, chapter 1. Should be unlocked for everybody. The last thing that we're going to cover in chapter 1 is the communication process. This is something that I guarantee every single one of you has seen before, but maybe just a little bit different than what you're used to, right? Well, the communication process is you have your sender, you have your message, and you have your receiver, right? Well, in this case, who is the sender? Me, I'm the sender. What is the chapter, or what is the message? Chapter 1, right? Who are the receivers? I'll be darned, you guys are, right? Something that's a little bit different is your feedback and your noise. This being an online class, I won't get to directly see your feedback, but if this were a regular face-to-face course, your feedback would be, well, going back a little bit, those transfers of meaning, right? Head down on your phone, your feedback, right? Communication noise is legitimately just what it sounds like. Anything that distracts you from the message is communication noise. So if you're watching this on the beach, right? There's a seagull that flies by. I'll be darned, that's communication noise because it takes your attention away from what's being portrayed, which is chapter 1, right? Or it's just maybe you've had a bad day. Maybe it's an internal noise going on and you just can't quite focus in the classroom or wherever you are. So communication noise is just anything that distracts you from the message. Comments, questions, concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out. Chapter 1, I think is pretty straightforward, but I want you guys to know that I am here if you need anything. Please refer to the book chapter at the bottom of Canvas if you have any comments or questions that I cannot answer. Hopefully I can answer all of them. Now we're going to move on to chapter 2 quickly. Chapter 2 is having a communication presence in a multicultural society and world. Well, communication has many, many faces. What does that mean? I'll let you know. It is diverse. What is diversity? If you've ever seen Anchorman, no, it is not an old wooden ship used during the Civil War era. I wish it was, but it is not. Diversity is the recognition and valuing of difference. So just different. Diversity, different. What are some things that make things diverse? Well, brother, sister, boom, right there. Family, diverse. Walk into a classroom, you have students of different cultures, different backgrounds, different races, different ethnicities. Boom, diverse, right there. That is things that make things diverse. If you want to, don't think of it so, I guess, critically. If you look at a box of crayons, you see in there, do you guys say crayons or crayons? I don't know. It's a good question, I think. But look at a box of crayons, boom, whole different colors. Sometimes you have 64 of them. That's a diverse box of crayons, right? So diversity is different. Culture and communication. Do all cultures have the same form of communication? Why or why not? Well, I'm going to go back to the double bird, right? I hope everybody knows what that is. If you don't, it's when you get flipped off with both your hands, right? But in the United States, flipping somebody off is usually a universal sign of, hey buddy, cut that out, right? I don't know if this is true, but if you go to some deserted island that doesn't know that and flipping somebody off is, hi, hey, what's up, how are you? If somebody flips you off and you're from the United States and you're on that island, what are you going to do? You're probably going to throw hands, right? Or, again, if you want to, it doesn't necessarily have to don't think big, right, like that. Think maybe more localized. I'm going to say local is the whole United States, okay? If you are from the South and you go to somebody and you say, hey, get me a Coke. Okay, well, to you, in the South, they're going to ask you, what type of Coke do you want? Okay, well, I want a Dr. Pepper. If you're here in Indiana and you say, I want a Coke, what is the waiter or waitress going to bring you? Probably a Coke, right? And then that's on you because, well, you should have specified. But that is just a quick overview of how some cultures are different. Why is it important to understand other people's cultures when you're trying to communicate with them? Biggest thing, you don't want to upset or offend anybody. Right? You want to make sure that everybody is on a level playing field and knows that, hey, if you have a question, it comes from a genuine place, and people can tell. People can usually tell. This is another case in point where if this were a face-to-face course, I say buckle up. Things have never got heated in like the 3 years that I've done this, but we'll see. Ethnocentrism, and is it dangerous? Well, first and foremost, we have to figure out what ethnocentrism is. According to the book, it is the evaluation of other cultures according to preconceptions originating in the standards and customs of one's own culture. Here's another thing. What on earth does that mean? Oh, I'll let you know. Oop, pulled my mic cable, hopefully that didn't come undone. It is seeing one's culture as more important or valuable, or less valuable than your own. Less important or less valuable than your own. Basically, it's seeing your way of thinking and your way of life is better than anybody else's. And it doesn't matter what they think. Is that a bad thing? Can be. There is a point in history where it started a world war, right? What can it lead to? Is another thing. What can it promote? Well, it can promote stereotypes, prejudice, racial profiling, go on and so forth. Obviously, those are extreme cases, right? Most of the time, it is out of ignorance that you just maybe misinterpret something, right? However, it can be portrayed as seeing you as better than another person. Again, think World War II, think Adolf Hitler. Those are the extreme cases of what ethnocentrism can lead to, can bring up, okay? Why is it important to forget that? Well, like we said earlier, we just want to make sure everybody feels included, make sure everybody feels welcome in every environment, because we don't want to be the reason that they feel sad, uncomfortable, or even in danger. Now, these generation gaps, the book calls you guys a little bit different of a generation than you guys are probably familiar with, okay? You have your greatest generation, which is, probably your great-grandparents. Then you have your baby boomers, which for most of you is probably your parents, maybe some of your parents, but probably your parent or grandparents. My parents fall under baby boomers, the tail end of it, and Gen X. Gen X is probably where most of your parents fall. Okay, then you have your millennials, which is me. Yeah. And then you have, the book calls you guys I generation. Why does it call you guys that? I don't know. Probably because iPhones and all that fun stuff. Right? But we'll go from there. And this is almost out of date because I think the cutoff is like 05, 06, 07, somewhere in there. So book, we need to get that up to date, right? But what are some customs, cultures, anything like that, that were considered normal or weren't considered normal in the past, right? Well, let's just think of it. If you were to tell your great-grandparents that in 2008, the United States were to elect a black president of the United States, what do you think your great-grandma or grandpa, how do you think they would react? Probably shock, utter chaos, right? That's just because that's the time that it was. But if you were to tell somebody in a millennial or your guys' generation that, hey, you can't use that water fountain, you have to use that water fountain. Why, it's just a water fountain, right? Those are some customs, cultures that were maybe more widely accepted back in the day that now We're like, okay, that's not good. Why did we ever do that? Right. Or vice versa. Right. So just think of those customs, and is it something that we maybe take for granted now, as far as everybody's welcome? Right. That's kind of where we want to go. But back in the day, if you were a different color skin, if you were a different gender or race or anything like that, sometimes you couldn't get in places just because of who you were. Lastly, how can we reduce misunderstandings? Just ask, communicate, listen. Like I said a little bit earlier, most people can tell if you have a question that comes from a genuine place of curiosity, if it's a genuine question. And that's okay. If you don't understand something, say, I don't understand that, please explain it to me. And like I said, most people will be happy to explain that, to explain why things are the way they are in their culture or their race or anything like that. Like I said, if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns about anything, please do not hesitate to reach out. We have no real assignments due this week, except the attendance quiz that is due Sunday, and then I will open up week 3 sometime this week, and then we'll have one assignment due the following week. It is perception activity. I think it's fun. It's just, I call it the judging people activity sometimes, but it's just one of those things. We shape our vision of somebody or people in a matter of seconds. I don't think we realize we do it. But that is it for chapters 1 and 2. That is it for week 2. I will see you guys, I won't. You guys will see me back, and I don't know where I'm gonna do the week 3 lecture for. I'll be on the road a lot next week, so we'll figure it out. Until then, hope you guys have a fun and safe weekend and or week, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.